Lisa, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Today's episode is all about fashion and style and trends, all the fabulous things that make this life so exciting.
Yes.
Things that can really make a difference in terms of how we show up in this world. So
hmm
why don't we start with your personal style? How would you describe it?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for having me before we get into everything, because I just think that worlds collide and people connect through synergy. And I just am so happy to be here. So, first of all, I wanted to say thank you. In answer to your question, how would I describe my personal style? I would describe my personal style is as really eclectic. And the
Mm,
reason being is because not only am I a creative person, but I think that I think we all do have so many different versions of ourselves. And
yeah.
so I dress for all of those different versions. And I think that personal style comes from accessing things that inspire you. And that could be anything from like books and movies and music. And it's a mandolin. It's like a far away perspective of time and moments and things all woven together, which I think really creates personal style. So the one word I would use is eclectic.
And I would 100% agree. I think when I look at social, I'm like, I love it. It's so eclectic. I love how you mix the vintage with the new and high and low, and you're not afraid to be bold and color. All the things that I feel like we really need in 2025.
hmm
And have you always been into fashion? Has that always been a thing for you?
Yeah, fashion was always, and I think a lot of people always say this, like a way for me to express myself. And I'll pull back the curtain a little bit here because I think sharing stories helps for everything to really resonate. And so when I was growing up, I was always very outgoing, but I think that a lot of people confused outgoing with confidence. And
Mm,
while being outgoing takes you a certain distance, I think that my overall confidence as it related to understanding things in school, or I always felt like I was very slow to catch on, or I could fake it really well, but my inside didn't always match my outside. And I was the kind of girl that it doesn't matter, like from grade 1 to when I graduated, deciding what I was wearing to school the night before was a priority above almost homework and those kinds of things. I stepped
mm,
into a character all the time because I always felt that style and fashion and making myself feel good. I was always like a little bit in a movie. And I
yeah,
always felt that I could stand out that way. Not in an overzealous way, but that it was my own way of feeling not behind.
yeah.
And so it's always been woven very much within me in part of an equation, which was my mom and grandmother and men and women around me always leveled up and always took style and personal care into our family dynamic. And so I had really great examples of it. And
Mhm.
that is still within me today. But individually, that's really how I always approach style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that happens because when I think about my mom and my grandmother, same thing. There was a very, strong presence when it came to fashion, design. Like we paid a lot of attention to that. And there's other things, for instance, like my mom has never been into makeup. And so I'm never really into makeup. It's just so amazing how that happens
Yeah.
and how your years really influence who you are in your later years. The other thing that I think about when I think of you that really stands out on social is the fact that you wear a lot of blazers, which I love. And I want to talk about that because, for the longest time, fitted blazers were a thing, but
Yeah.
I'm noticing wearing a lot of sort of oversized blazers. So what's the trick there? Because I find sometimes it could be, you can get them a little bit too big. So what's the right size? How do you figure that part out?
So these are really good questions. It all depends on how you, of course, want to style something, right? So for me, of course, I'm not really a trends and rules person, but there really is something to be said for how things do evolve. So 5, 10 years ago, blazers had that sort of nipped in waist, a little bit shorter and hitting you at the hip, which would look look more paired with like a suit, like a skirt suit, for example, or a pantsuit, which those are still very relevant today. But I do believe that there is really power in blazers. And truth be told, I come from the menswear world where yeah. So the bulk of my
Yeah.
career was in the luxury menswear retail and wholesale space. I mean, I always did style and work with women, but the majority of where my experience comes from is in the tailored menswear world. And so something was very attractive to me as what it felt like to put on a blazer, even in that oversized way, because it sort of channels that very, which I lean into. I know maybe people aren't a fan of this so much, but I really think that masculine energy really helps to actually accentuate your femininity.
I think it looks amazing on you. Honestly, for the TV, I'm like, maybe I should wear a blazer like Lisa.
Blazers in that oversized way have to be styled in a certain way. So that really comes down to proportion and fabric and texture, right? And so there's so many ways that you can go about it. Not all oversized blazers look good on me. Some are a little bit too long, some are a bit too exaggerated in the shoulder.
Yeah, even though I do see some girls with the over exaggerated shoulders, and then I guess they'll do like a belt,
Yeah.
right? To cut.
So, for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah.
the other night, I know you were a fan of this particular outfit, but I was wearing a leopard blazer given to me by my mother in law, which had very exaggerated shoulders, but that's exactly what I did. I nipped in the waist by putting on, which is very important also in personal styling, which is the store. It's like the icing on the cake, accessories. And so I belted it with a
Yeah,
belt that I is also sort of a vintage piece that made the whole look come together. And that because had I not worn the belt, the silhouette wouldn't have been right. So sometimes it
yeah,
requires an oversized blazer to be open. Sometimes you do one button.
yeah,
Sometimes you wear a belt. You know, it just depends on like the length, the color, the fabric, all of those things play a role in how, and it depends on your height. It depends on where you carry some of your weight, right? Like for someone like me who
yeah,
is bigger chested, I have to be very aware of the way it's falling and where it's hitting and where the button is. Like all of these things play a role. So that's why for me in my styling, I'm not really like a one stop shop. I think that every
yeah.
single piece is unique and how you put it all together really does play a part, right?
Yes. And so I love everything that you've said because there are so many technical things that you just mentioned that most of us wouldn't really think about. And so this brings me to obviously your profession and what
Yeah.
you do. So talk to us about sort of the services that you offer because I mean there's so many things that you just went
Yeah.
through
And so
that, that most of us wouldn't think about. Honestly, from the textures to how it hits us to how we carry that weight. Talk to us a little bit more about the services that you
So the
offer.
services that I offer are very curated. I mean, like, of course, I have my like menu of the fundamental things I do, but the work that I really do is not, I always use this word like a one stop shop. And I really want to debunk for your listeners and your viewers what the idea of working with a stylist really does entail. Because there's so many of us out there in our own zone of genius, right? For me, as
Ah,
you see in my content, I'm not like, let me show you how to style a skirt three ways. Like, if I worked with you individually, I could tell you how to style your own skirt three ways. But I believe that it's like we're
mm,
all snowflakes. None of us are the same. And so every experience that I
yes.
work with, the clients that I work with, is very curated and tailored to them specifically and their needs and their life. And so the fundamental thing I do
Yeah.
that most people start with me is what I call a closet interview. I call it a closet interview because I'm getting to
Mm.
know you and you're getting to know me. And just
Oh my gosh, that's something we all need. A
yeah,
closet interview. That's something we
it's
all.
essentially a
Wow.
consultation
Okay.
where I can do it in person, where I can come in and I usually do that for 2 to 3 hours because when I come into your closet, I'm a very photographic memory person. I'm a taste, smell, and feel person. So before we talk about anything that we need to buy, which is only the later part, I look in your closet and style what it is you already have. And that gives me what
Yeah.
we're doing is building stories. I think an important part to this equation too is that my curiosity and empathy as a person really help to guide how I work with people, right? So in my time, which if we get to this part, we might, and if we don't, we don't. But in my sort of time off from work when I had my children, which was only in the recent past, I also did take my life coaching certification because along the way in my life, I've really been mostly somebody who is a personal influence because people, I think, feel very comfortable coming to me and talking to me because I will pare it down to its, I'll take every avenue to figure out the nucleus of how we can style you, what your needs are, what we're dressing for, whether it's transitions or ages and stages in our life. Everyone is so unique, right? Some people have like really great
Yes.
workwear, but maybe they're in a new stage of their life where they're on panels and they're traveling and they're in a new zone of themselves. How do you dress for that? How does the confidence part meet with how
Mhm.
you're presenting? You know, some people are newly single, for example, whether divorced or widowed, or maybe they haven't been on the dating scene. It's like, how do you show up in these transitions of your life? If you have great work clothes and you're, sort of set in that category, maybe when I come and do the closet interview, we're talking about how you show up to create and attract abundance in your life. Because let's say you're attracting a new person
Wow.
or partner, or just attracting a new version of yourself. How are you showing up? Right. And so that might mean an updated style or something where we need to fill in the gaps. So when you do go on a date, you're prepared, you're in control, you feel like you're in the moment, as opposed to like over guessing what we're wearing and taking us out of what we're really there to do and accomplish. Right. I hope that was a good answer. Not a good answer, but
Yeah.
an answer.
No, I love that one. That makes so much sense. And I could see some people, and I'm sure you've had this, that they'll say, you know what, I don't want anything that's in my closet. It's so, outdated. It's the old me. I want to start from scratch. I could also see some people being very much to what you said, very corporate. Everything that they have in their closet is very corporate, not much sort of for casual nights out. Or, I think about the past few years as being at home, working from home and
Yeah.
being so casual, right? So do you find that style has sort of evolved because of the pandemic where we are perhaps more casual as much as we're dressing up? It's more of a sort of casual way of
I think
dressing up.
it's
Do
a
you find
blend
that?
of a lot of different things. I think as a principle of coming out of COVID, we are starting to crawl out of that like athleisure comfort and start deciding to dress in a more I coined it, like I have a coin term called upper casual. So like even though I'm a stylist and even though I, for the most part, make choices to dress in a certain way, I've been wearing the same leggings that have been on my floor for like 5 days in a row when I go pick up my kids. But it's like the shoe,
Yes.
the sock, what kind of sweatshirt are you wearing? Like for me, for example, I don't really wear hoodies with tassels. I like to always feel a little bit more upper. It doesn't mean that those are bad, but I still don't ever abandon the idea of comfort. It's just how are you dressing comfortably to do the day-to-day errands. So like no matter what, I will always wear a sweatshirt that has like a quarter zip because it feels like it has a bit of a popped collar. I'll always throw on like a little hoop and a
Mm.
sunglass and use what my personal style benchmarks are. Like I have like 1,000 different fanny packs. Some are from Amazon, some are vintage,
Yeah.
some are designer. Like because I'm a mom on the go, even a purse or a crossbody bag, it's like I'm always searching for something and I'm always, as I get older, losing my mind a little bit. So if everything is right
Yeah.
here in the front, I use fanny packs as an accessory to like put my
Yeah.
whole look together. So I always somehow feel like my
Yeah.
look is an upper casual version, but still very comfortable. And I think that that will always exist because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we really do on our day to day want to feel as in our bodies and comfortable as possible. But there are always stronger choices to make within each category, if that makes any sense.
Yes. It does. I love it. So I want to touch on accessories
Okay.
and vintage. Let's start with vintage. Because I'm also a
Yeah.
lover of vintage, as you know, but I find that a lot of people get overwhelmed with where do I go? And once I walk into that vintage store,
Right.
it can be overwhelming because people compare it. I've heard people compare it to Winners or Marshalls, where you kind of walk in as like a market, it's everywhere versus being curated. So, what's your strategy? First of all, which stores would you recommend in
Okay.
Toronto for vintage shopping? And number two, do you have a strategy when you walk into a vintage store? Like, do you have a strategy for
So
how you look for
those
things?
are all very good questions. So I'll first start with that there's like vintage versus thrifting. If you which a lot of people sort of
Yes.
confuse, right? So when we tackle into the idea of vintage, for example, vintage also does come with, it depends what pieces you're picking and where you're buying them, because vintage is something that is like an art and a craft on its own. And so the people who are curating stores that have vintage pieces, often they're attached to, I don't want to say a significant price point, but it's still of value, right? Because you're getting what would have been a very high ticketed item back in the day and bringing it into the forefront. And because vintage is such an upcycling and the resale market in the luxury space, for example, is so current right now, I think that I want to clarify that for the people who are listening and who are watching, because I'm someone who can walk
Yes.
into a value village, which you can find a vintage piece based on the date of that item, but most people would consider going to a place like that thrifted, which can be overwhelming at the same time,
Yes.
right? It's just, to me,
Yeah.
when I go to these stores, whether it be vintage or thrifting or a combination of the both, whether it's a market or otherwise, it it shouldn't feel so intimidating, because those pieces have to really like speak to you. When I go, I never know what I'm looking for. I never know what's there. If I'm looking for like a really kind of
Oh,
cool, let's say, fur piece, there's so many to choose from. So just like you would be stepping into, let's say, a Winners or otherwise, you just have to be patient. You have to like maybe not be on the hunt,
yeah.
but have something in your mind that then you're
Yeah.
sort of geared towards and trying to find something. If you're someone who's like, you know what, I really need to like up my belt game, go to the belt section and look what the belts are, see
Yeah.
how you can find different variations of different things to try and complete your look, right? So, for example, let's say we did want to find a belt
Yeah.
that can go around blazers in a cinched way. You're going to try and find something a little smaller to go around like the small of your waist, right? So, my answer to you would be then, to not feel so overwhelmed, is to think about what it is you really need or what you're trying to achieve, and then go down those lanes and let those things kind of like speak to you. And the other answer to that question, which is my
Yeah.
favorite vintage store right now, is called Vintage in the City. And this store, I mean, my pillars and my inspiration come very much, I'm a girl of the 80s. I was born in 1980 and I grew up in the 80s. And so all of those exaggerated shoulders, it's always been like, people say, oh, leopard's such a trend. It's like, I've been wearing leopard out of the womb. Like my grandmother, yeah. And so
What is
I
my
really
back?
have always, it's not just a trend right now. I've always dressed that way. I've always worn my Who's the Boss, Angela Bauer big camel coat with like big shoulders. Like even when I was younger, like I always was a little bit 80s and never abandoned that neon and really cool things that sort of I believe that all of these things tell a story.
Gosh, yeah.
And so when I get dressed, I try and evoke a
Yes.
story or an inspiration from within me. And that is usually drawn primarily from the past.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's some really incredible vintage stores out there. Mine and Yours is another really great one, that has incredible pieces at an affordable luxury price point, because of course you're buying it gently used, and they're very thorough about the selection that they have. So Vintage in the City, there's so many, they're escaping me right now. I can send you a list of some really good ones, but they're out there, definitely.
I love that. You also mentioned accessories, how it could really make a difference in terms of your outfit. Where would you recommend people shop for accessories?
Like, I'll just pull back the curtain here. Like, these hoops that I wear every day, that I don't care if they get lost, are from Joe Fresh. They don't tarnish. I've been wearing them. They're like my go-to hoop earring. They come in like 3 sizes at Shoppers Drug Mart, and those are those. My jewelry that I wear here, that I very rarely take off, are passed down from me from my grandparents and my yeah. So like, these never come
Oh,
off for the most part. It's
that's
very, very rare that I take them off. So, but these hold not only sentimental value to me, but they bring me energy, because if I'm not wearing one, for example, I really don't feel myself. And so I always feel
Yeah.
like they have a little bit of energy, a little bit of protection, and they're what I think are my vintage pieces because I've been wearing them since I've probably been 15 or 16. And my rings that I like to stack
Yeah.
are also pieces that would I suppose be considered vintage. And I do pick up things along the way, like in my travels or something really unique. But most of them are also from like my mother and my grandmother and a combination of like a present or two that my husband has got me along the way. So I always usually like
Yeah.
double down and stack. And I'm a little bit like excessive. I'm a maximalist in, I think, every sense of the word. Yeah.
Listen, I have to give you a tip, and you may already know she's a designer from New York. And I saw someone else wear her 1980s earrings, the clip-ons, big, big ones. And I'm like, who goes from? She goes, oh my gosh, it's this designer from New York.
Okay.
Her name escapes me now. I'm gonna have to include it as part of this episode. Thank you. But she just started her line a couple years ago, and it's all like 1980s jewelry. So beautiful, big and bold, and oh my gosh, those clip-ons. I actually wanted to order a pair, but she doesn't deliver to Canada yet. It's just made for us.
I
Beautiful pieces. You would absolutely love it.
Of course, like when I do get dressed up and go out, it's not always these, but these are sort of like my day to day going out and picking up the kids. And I love a good hoop because a hoop can always like elevate an outfit. But speaking of incredible
Yes.
selection of vintage clip on 80s and 90s inspired pieces, Vintage in the City has the best selection. I would encourage you to go by. I'll share
Oh,
all of their information after and tell them Lisa sent you because I'm like, I just want to like drop dead every time in her store. I'm like, I'm gonna have to like put a I don't know, mortgage on my house to keep up with all of the pieces. It's like an addict. It's like it's I shouldn't I have to like ban myself from going into the store sometimes because I just, you can't say no. It's hard to say no.
so
Yeah.
we talked about the closet interview. You do the assessment, and let's say you do want to bring in some vintage pieces for your clients. Is it up to them to look for those pieces, or do you actually source the items for them?
So that's again, you're like asking all these really great questions, which is after the closet interview, there's a few ways, like again, everybody's different. So I do offer a tag on option where
Yeah.
we can go on what's called a personal shop. So I can take you to the places that I'm in
Yeah.
partnership with and the places that I like to shop at based on price point, selection, style, availability, all of those things. And I can go on the personal shop with you. I can
Wow.
also, for the most part, what I tend to do is after I have a closet interview with someone, whether virtual or in person, I take everything that we discussed and um, sort of curated in that time. And I provide shoppable links and things where it's like the Lisa seal of approval. Let's say we're talking about we need a navy blazer, for example. I will then send you based on each individual
Yeah.
person. Let's say someone's like, you know what? I just kind of want to shop on my own, but I need some guidance. I always come up with like shoppable links and vision boards for looks that I see after I leave you based on the things that we discussed. So, like, let's say we're looking for a navy blazer. I'll give you like the Winners version, the Zara version, the Holt Renfrew version, and like one other version. So, no matter where you go
Got it.
on your own accord, you can then decide to purchase those things on
Yeah.
your own. Or if you're like, Lisa, I can't. And then I just want you to come with me or source it for me or bring it to my house, like whatever. There's a few different ways that I go about doing it. I usually like to take people to I can't take them to the mall, but I like to take them to independent stores where I think that the shopping experience could be a little bit more
Mm.
exclusive and private. And it all depends on people's budget, you know. It's all about budget.
I love how flexible you are in your offering because I think that's key. Who's in front of you, what they need, what they want, how comfortable they may be. Because fashion is a
Yeah.
big deal and a bit overwhelming for some people. It really is. For some people, most naturally, for others, not so much. Now, let's talk about your story because we haven't touched on your story and how you became a stylist. Walk us to
Uh,
Lisa from the beginning to Lisa now.
okay. How did it all start? I I graduated
Yeah.
post-secondary from theater, film, and acting school. And so it was a triple threat school where I was auditioning
Oh.
heavily. And so if you're in the audition world, in the acting world, you're
Oh.
either like in the service industry as it relates to being a server, or you're in retail, because you're able to then go on auditions and have your shifts
Yeah.
covered. And that's usually what people are doing, especially at the young age that I was. And so while I worked a few retail jobs, my big one came when I started working at Holt Renfrew. And initially, I thought, okay, I'll just like, I guess if I get a job there, I'll work in the, I guess, women's wear department. But serendipitously, they put me in the menswear department, in the men's tailored section. And, you know, it's not for the weak, because the people who work on the floor are established. And when you're selling suiting to men, in the culture of men, and at that time, suits were very prominent because it was before COVID, it's price point, it's experience, it's price value justification for things, it's tailoring, it's a lot of different components. So of course you could like cross sell in denim and knitwear and all of that stuff, but for predominantly I was in the men's suiting department, and I really learned a lot from that experience, from the people who I worked on the floor with to all of the customers who I had seen over the years. And that experience, there was an incentive at the time with a company named called Xenia, which for those of you who are listening and know it, they are the grandfather of luxury menswear. And for the people who don't know it, they are the grandfather of luxury menswear. And it's like going to the Yale and Harvard, let's say, of tailoring and schooling and all of that stuff. And so I had won a competition
Mhm.
on the sales floor where the person who sold the most to their plan got to go to Italy with the Holt Renfrew team and meet the Xenia family, and had this wild, crazy experience. And at no point did I think I was going to win, because I really was a newbie there. And for some reason, the stars aligned and I ended up winning, which allowed me to go there and see what this all really meant. And from there, I ended up getting a job at Xenia in the
Mm.
wholesale world. So I left Holt Renfrew and went to the wholesale world, where I really learned the fundamentals of selling and curating collections, and the reverse side of fashion, which I was selling to all the stores, be it Holt Renfrew, Harry Rosen, and all of the luxury menswear stores across Canada. And so I started to become less and less of the actor
Oh.
singer Lisa, but always brought in the vibrancy of those things and the telling stories, and that my bold sort of nature as it related to fashion, and really started to get my footing in the business aspect of what wholesale looks like. And that's everywhere from logistics to orders to, I mean, the list goes on and on. Servicing customers, going to visit their stores, understanding what adjacent brands were on the floor. How could we separate and create a story for our collection on the floor, building those relationships, and so on and so on. And from there, I went to work at, Xenia is a completely vertical company. I went on to work
Mhm.
at a distribution company where I shouldered more of the responsibility of the brand building as well as the wholesale and sales part of it. So I was blending all of these different experiences. And I don't believe that anything in life, no matter how big or small, is by mistake. And so I really thought that I was shining there.
Yes.
And I developed incredible relationships with retailers, and I understood
Oh.
how to brand build and speak to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And so from there, I was there for about 5 or 6 years, if I have the timing correct. And when I was 39, turning 40, I became pregnant with my first son, despite many challenges. And then right away, I got pregnant with my second son, who they are now 5 and 6 years old. They're 1 year apart. And so I was a mom for, I told that place of work, which I loved with all of my heart, that I think that there needs to be like, a new age and stage for me. And in those 5 years of raising my kids,
Yeah.
I always had the pull to, of course, dig back into myself. But of course, there's a lot of things I had my kids during COVID. A lot of different things were happening in my personal life at that time. And I just, when my kids went to school,
Mhm.
everyone during that time always still reached out to me and was like, Lisa, should I buy these shoes or this shoes for that? Help me get dressed for this event. What should I wear when I travel? Like I was always, no matter what, doing what I do. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start Lifestyle by Lisa and like see where this
Mhm.
all kind of goes. And the last 2 years has been like the most wild ride of
Yeah.
building this business.
I love that. It's such a beautiful story. And so, as you think about what the future holds for yourself, what goals do you have for Lisa?
And as I approach my like 45th year of life, I get emotional because it's like so many things have happened. I think
Yeah,
every single person, no matter what age and stage they are, is the sum of many, 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 many different experiences. And you have to lean into and talk about and
yes,
ask for not only to the universe the things you want, but figure out for yourself what
yeah,
is your thing. And my thing is not just the style aspect that almost comes, I think, secondary to the um
yeah,
ability to see someone's pain points and pull that out and drive possibility through the lens of style
yeah,
and confidence, and be and use now what my talents were at the
yes,
beginning of my career, which were all of the acting and being in front of the camera and the authenticity that you need to bring to things, and actually being the master of your own destiny because you're only as good as your
yeah,
last audition or the last thing that you booked. And so for me, content creating at the same time as
yes,
building my business, because of course we're all sort of content creators in this day and age, I feel like everything is coming full circle back to me
yes,
in the way of being an on-air personality, because
yes,
being on air, whatever, whether that's like YouTube or your own show or you're on pod, whatever that is your have the ability to hone in on your messaging. And the messaging for me is the most important because I think I have a
yes.
lot of really valuable messages to share.
And what I really love about how you're sharing your story and your profession is that you're pulling in that human aspect and recognizing the person in front of you. It's not just so technical about the fashion and the style. It really depends on the person that's in front of you, what you're trying to communicate, where they're at in terms of their life. Because
Right.
how we dress does communicate how we're feeling. I mean, there's so many people that we meet and we're like, wow, something's going on with this person, right? Or it's like, wow, this person is really showing up, right? So I love that you really pay attention to that because it really makes a difference. You know, one of the things that we talk about in corporate, I spend a lot of time in the interviewing space, and we say that recruiters, as unbiased as we try to be, recruiters make a
Yeah.
judgment on whether or not they're going to hire you within the first 3 minutes. And it's words that you're using, how you
Hmm.
communicate, but also how you dress. 3 minutes is what you have to impress me. Right. So all of it, the whole package has to come together as to give a very strong message about
I
who are you, what is your brand.
because of course there's those people out there who are like, I don't care how I look, and I'm just like, they're sort of haphazard about it. I would encourage those people to
Yeah.
question why they don't care, right? Because at the end of the day, we are, whether you like it or not, a walking talking business card. It's everything is about building trust. It's not just on a job level. It's like, will I leave my children with you for a play date? How do I feel about you when I'm meeting you in the school parking lot? How are you bringing, like, to me, my coin term is your energy visualized. And so your energy visualized does suggest how you do show up, how you do care about yourself, because all of these little things, I'm not saying you have to have a face full of makeup and like shop at
Yes.
Fendi. These are not, I work and have met a lot of people who are dressed very well, but conversely,
Yeah.
their energy is not so great. And so the outside really has to try and match the inside or
Yes.
vice versa. And for the people who are like, oh, it doesn't really matter. And it does matter. It does matter
Yeah.
because your energy, you vibrate at a certain frequency, and that frequency is all signals that allow the employer or the teacher or the other parent or whoever or other people that you're just doing transactional business with. I was at speaking at a conference yesterday, like a master of the minds, and we were talking a lot about, like, I go to a lot of I guess, conventions and events, and there's always vendors at these events, right? And so I
Yeah.
often see people who have product and
Mhm.
they have a booth, and like nothing about who they are is representing what their product is. It's like, how are you showing up for the people that you're meeting, transactional business, and for your overall brand? And so I do a lot of work with people who are also trying to build their
Yeah.
brand through photo shoots, because photo shoots are a whole other beast of like, how do I know what
Yes.
to wear? Is it going to read well on camera? These are like evergreen photos and you want to love them when you look at them. So like, choosing a dress that when you're sitting down it might not read well, like these are all things that through all of my experiences I can really lend my expertise to, and then people feel more prepared and in control and can give their best everything. And that's really the fundamental of everything that I do.
I want to share a story. Family friend, he got into modeling by just, an accident, really. He was in Paris that morning. He was debating whether or not he was going to dress up or not. It was going to be just very casual sort of day, but he decided, for whatever reason, he decided to dress up. He was crossing the street in Paris. I don't know which street specifically. And he ended up just noticing someone in the car, a gentleman, and they sort of caught, each other just for a few seconds. He kept on walking, only for this man to run after him and be like, "Hey, I would love to
Oh,
connect with you. Here's my information." Well, this turns out to be Mario Testino from New York. He's like, "I want to book you. I love your image. I love how you're sort of showing up, your energy." Even though he was dressed casually, he was still a little bit dressed up. Love about this. Let's book you in for the next photo shoot I'm doing with Burberry. Burberry. That morning, he had a choice. He could have been like, "I just woke out of bed. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to put my head down." No, he showed up a little bit differently. And then he modeled for a few years. He now has a modeling agency in New York that he owns, but it was seconds.
happen. But when you do lean into your personal style, or you do have a certain energy, like even when I don't feel like I'm necessarily, let's say, dressed the way I want it to be, what I try to do, and this is an exercise maybe for the people who are listening, is like, think to yourself, if I'm not dressed the way I necessarily want to be today, let your energy not shrink you, but use your energy to rise above that. And then that is your best accessory, because you have to kind of like pull yourself, not fake it till you make it, but don't let those things
I love
shrink you, but rather really, really think to yourself, even if it's like even physical, like, how your posture is, put your shoulders back, take a bit of a deeper breath, pull your like navel to your spine, and just think to yourself, okay, take a second, and then it kind of resets you.
So I love what you're saying around your energy being your accessory. So do you work with your clients on their energy because you found the outfits for them? Lovely. But if they're not stepping into this new person that they want to portray, there's a disconnect. Do you work on that with them or do you refer them to someone else?
No, I definitely do work on it with them. And
I
I'll
love
tell you
that.
what the exciting part about all of it is, obviously, because to me, before the pieces and before the styling, it is about the energy. And so
Mm,
when I see them start to, like, the twinkle in their eye, when I like take pieces and start to put things together for them, and there's a reignition of the pieces that they have, it also gives them confidence to know, like, what's in their closet. I'm not just like, get rid of it all or this doesn't work. I'm like, I always see possibility, because at the end of the day, you're a person who has made those choices to buy those things. So I'm not
yeah.
there to overhaul you or to shun the things I'm not there to impose my style on you, but rather
Mm,
figure out ways to make you feel reignited about the choices you have, the choices you've made, where you're at in your life. And those little things already start to make the client, no matter what, feel reignited and energetic and confident in a way. And I do believe, just like everything else, whether it's health goals or business goals or any of those things, all of the confidence, it's not just like it happens overnight. It's the repetition of little disciplines and
yes.
the mindset stuff. It all works together, right? And so
Yes.
that part, I mean, I can always refer them to people because I have people, of course, in my network that I love to collaborate with. And if there's someone who I think really does need a specific kind of work that is beyond my capability, of course, it's my joy. At Lifestyle by Lisa, it's about, I always call it your personal diet. It's what you're reading, what you're
Mm,
watching, who you're hanging out with, where you're going, what art influences you. Like everything is energy. So if you're like constantly, let's say, in my opinion, watching the news all the time, it affects your frequency. It affects how you feel about yourself. It affects how you communicate with other people. Like, I'm not saying don't, I'm just saying
yeah,
that everything is about putting it all together. So it's not just for
yeah,
me about styling. I'm like sort of, I don't want to say a stylist last, but I'm very like I consult with you about all different aspects of your life. And so when I come in and do the closet interview, we talk about so much. It's like when you go to get your haircut or you go get your nails done, like that person's the person you talk to about stuff. Right? Like they're like little
yeah,
mini
yeah,
therapists, you know? So and your coach,
yes,
and like let's say
yeah,
you're working out, like your trainer becomes your friend and your confidant, maybe a little bit. Maybe you
absolutely.
would tell things to that person in the hour that you normally wouldn't speak about. Like when you choose who you're going to work with on any level, there needs to be that synergy, right? And that's where I think the joy of
Yes.
what I do really comes from. I'd be very hard pressed to find someone who like didn't take away anything from when we work together. It's only because I care so much.
Yes.
Like my level of care and
Yes.
curiosity is like, I think that the universe has gifted me with something very special in that way because I'm like endlessly curious about people.
You're looking at the whole person because everything that you're saying makes so much sense. And it's so easy to spot people where it's like things are off. They're showing up in new outfits, they're in a new role, but the energy's not there. But when it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Miss them. You're like,
It's not like a one and done with me, for example. Like, of course, I have returning customers, but like when I come into
yeah,
your closet, I'm such a photographic memory person that I can
yes,
remember like the sweater you have hanging to the left of whatever. And when I'm on the road and I'm at the mall or I'm like, oh my God, Jessica needs this pair of denim to go with that sweater hanging on the left side of her closet because that's what I do. It's like when I go in there, it all just like gets stapled for the most part like in my head,
yeah,
and then I know how to build around those pieces. So I, even if we continued to work together or we didn't, if I find something that I'm like, oh, we talked about a really great wool coat, I saw one that would be perfect for her at like Winners, I'll like text her, for example, and just be like, you got to go get this coat because we talked about it. And so
I
it
love
just
that.
goes beyond, I think being in service, in like whether that was working at restaurants and or retail, when you are someone of service, the sky is the limit for you. And I think that being of service in everything you do is what makes all of the pieces come together. And I take those jobs that I always had extremely seriously because they're the foundation of how I can operate and do the things that I do now.
And what collaborations do you have going on right now?
So I feel really honored and grateful to, you know, like I said before, you know, you're only as good, like in the acting world, you're only as good as like the last job you booked or like the last audition you went out on. And to have the content that I've been putting out there resonate with what is, I think, the fundamental Canadian heritage brands within Canada, that being Laura Canada, they we have now been in
Mm,
collaboration where I'm coming in to do these like live expert styling sessions within their store locations. I also just came back from Montreal where I got
yeah,
to style their entire holiday campaign for social and for, yeah. And so,
beautiful.
you know, I think that as stores and brands evolve, they need new faces and voices to lend to those things, to bring them to an ever growing
Yeah,
clientele. Because as the people who used to shop there carry on, there's a new breed of people who come in. And I think for
yeah,
me, having my content resonate and the messaging that I have, and maybe all of the things that I'm about, like I can't, of course, speak on their behalf, but I feel really lucky and honored that I've get to work with them in the capacity that I've been able to work with them in the last little while. And that feels really incredible. And they're an amazing company. It's Laura and Melanie Lynn, but I'm doing more styling for Laura. And they're sister companies. So they sort of like play off of each other.
Yeah.
And it's just to be a
Yeah.
voice for them using the principles that are important to me have felt is like amazing. So that's a very big collaboration that has been on my plate that I hope continues to grow. And I also had another one very recently with Veronica Beard where um, I was able to go into their store and create these like events where I'm bringing my clients and people in my circle and that kind of thing to come and get fresh eyes on the product and talk about that sort of all of these brands that I think I'm aligning with, of course, are now the fruition of it is because they're in that upper casual zone where it's like that affordable luxury space where we're like investing in some really core pieces, but trickling in with some other things that are setting us up for success,
Yeah.
whether it be travel or whether it be, just staples in our wardrobe or events. Like, I mean, Laura has incredible evening wear pieces and holiday pieces. And, there's just the sky's the limit. So I'd encourage anyone who's listening that there's like a vibe going on there and you guys should head into their stores
Yeah.
to see what's going on.
And I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but maybe for the 40s. I don't know if I've really shopped at Laura Canada before. Come to mind for me. So tell us how they're shifting.
Well, I think that that's maybe, yeah, that like misconception where now, I mean, the reality is even though when I look in the mirror, I guess I still look and feel in my 20s, I'm like a 45-year-old mature woman, I guess. And not that I think that that like limits me, right?
I'm
Like
like, what?
I see
40?
myself in such a
I
different
just
way, I
turned
guess. I don't know. It's all a very
25.
strange world. But what's really cool about Laura is that there are pieces, it's
Yeah.
all in how, of course, you approach and style it. Like maybe if you walked in there, you wouldn't love every piece, but the pieces that you would really gravitate to, there's incredible leather treated pants and really cool embellished current denim and great, insane knitwear pieces with beautiful shoulders and the construction. They take a lot of time. Like I'm the devil is in the details person. So their knitwear dresses have beautiful, thick, proper zippers up the back and like the construction of the material is fantastic and they have great accessories and they have beautiful suede pieces where if you have, a networking event, you can throw on that great blazer and even like a great pashmina or beautiful, like a beautiful, they have this really insanely gorgeous like cream cape right now that you just throw over on top of, what would be then your traditional like wool coat. And so they have a lot of
Yeah.
really stunning pieces that I think are more modern than,
Yeah.
people necessarily give them credit for. And of course, that back area where they have those stunning dresses, it's like you can wear it to any kind of event. There's whether it be like a wedding or a
Yes.
graduation or like a cocktail dinner, there's really just something for everybody there. And every time I go in, I'm
Yeah.
more impressed every time. And their sales associates
Yeah.
know what's up. These people actually like know where the inventory is. They know how to help
Yeah.
you. They're very well trained. And that is something that's equally as important to me because I come from the retail on the floor sales world. When I go into a store and no one can help me, they're like, I'm not so, I'm like, bye,
Yeah.
bye.
Okay, so now I'm gonna make it a mission. Next time I go to Shareway, is there a Laura at Shareway?
I think that there is one at Sherway.
Okay, I'm gonna make it to Laura and send to you. I'm gonna take some pictures and maybe I'll do a reel to help out with your collaboration. And what advice do you have for your younger self?
You know, such a good question. Just it's what I've always told myself, which is just like keep going, keep reinventing. Like it's okay to feel less than or have those anxious feelings about things because they really do propel you forward. I would just keep telling my younger self nothing different, but really just keep staying in it. And that everything everything, no matter how big or small, no matter who you meet on the street,
Yeah.
or if it's a negative encounter or a positive encounter, it all happens for a reason. And that all of the things, all of those experiences turn into wisdom if you use it to
Yeah.
propel you forward rather than to hold you back and live in the past.
Yes.
The worst thing that I am
Yeah.
like not attracted to is someone who lives in the past because I think it really holds you
Yeah.
back.
When I've listened to your story, what I really appreciate about it is that you seem to be the person that acknowledges everything happens for a reason, and you're also open to kind of work with it, right? You also there where, for instance, I found myself, at some moments in my life when I was like really pushing. I'm like, no, this is not part of the plan. This is not. And now when I look back, I'm like, my gosh, I should have. Why didn't I? Like, who knows what I would have been? Maybe I would have gotten to where I am right now a bit sooner. But no, I pushed back so hard. So I really love that about your story. Now, what about the best advice that you've received from others?
It's so funny because I ran into this man's sons like in the summertime because he was older than me. We worked on the
Yeah,
Holt Renfrew floor together, and he was quite the character. He'd been working in menswear for a long time, like that quintessential older guy. And he was sort of like a mentor and kind of uncle to me, let's say. And the one piece of advice that he gave me,
yeah,
which I've held on to this entire time, is that
yeah,
never make someone your priority when to them you're just an option. And that
yeah.
isn't only for personal relationships, but in work, in collaborations.
Mm,
It made me always feel like I have the strength to be the priority. And
yeah,
that never left me. That never left me. And one other one, which was another mentor of mine, which was a boss of mine. He's a
yeah,
legend in the business. His name is Al Israel. And he always told me,
yeah.
Lisa, you got to be the master of your own destiny and take the reins, which both of those pieces of advice work seamlessly together. And I know we're in
Mm,
like the women's, era but
yeah,
I have to say that I've always had
yeah.
incredible men around me champion me and push me forward. And I think that that is a big part of who I am. And so I always give grace to the men in my life who
That's
have
amazing.
women too. Of course, you learn things from your mom and your grandmother and all that stuff, but like from an outside perspective, be it that my experience has been in the menswear world, those two pieces of advice have been like gold to me in every way, shape, or form.
We hear those stories, but not too often. It's so lovely to hear that because there are so many great men out there that are rooting for us and opening the doors for us and do their best to really relate and try to see things from our viewpoint. That's lovely to hear.
And I would be nowhere without those people. So yeah, we talked about a lot, and you know me, I like overshare and overtalk a lot because I want to give you and your listeners, of course, as much meat off the bone as you can really get. I think that the one thing that, not that we haven't covered, but just that it's okay in life for things to ebb and flow. It's okay to feel different levels of different things. It's okay if friends come and go. It's okay if relationships change. It's okay. And for new people to come into your life and make room for new things. And I think all of those things, part and parcel, contribute and just push forward. And that's really the one thing that I could like leave you guys with as much as possible.
Lisa, thank you so much. You are such an auntie, and I just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever. There's so much about you that I love, from your style to your energy, like the
Oh
whole
my
thing.
God.
You have so much going on, and you should be so proud of yourself. I love meeting women like you. So thank you for taking this time.
The women that you're attracting and the things that you're doing. And it really, the flowers should go to you because you're the person facilitating all of this. Lots of people want to do a podcast, but are a little bit afraid or not sure where it's going to go. And so far, I think you have had like, with myself excluded, almost, I don't want to say excluded from the group, but like the cream of the crop coming to share stories and experiences. And it's you who's facilitating it. So I just want to say, equally back to you. And of course, we're friends and just like all of the stuff, girl. I'm so happy to know you and just keep elevating together. Thank you so much.
Yeah.